Haikiba Hajime, welcome back. It's time for another Friday night live stream. JT McRoberts here, your humble shogun of storytelling, the original comic book Ronin, whatever other nom de plumes I can come up with. I'm back with you for another exciting Friday evening. I thought we'd chop it up and talk the world of comics for a little bit. Thanks for joining me. I hope you had a nice week. I hope you're feeling energized and creative and ready to grab your muse with both hands and put it to work for you. Today we are drinking ice cold Diet Pepsi from my classic Uncanny X-Men cup. Check it out. Straight from the cover of Giant Size X-Men #1. Sip, sip. Very good. So, a lot of things going on in the world of comics. Today, I really just wanted to focus on the recent newsletter that Steve Rude sent out. I'm a big fan of his work. Got here as evidenced by my copy of the original Nexus here by Mike Barron and Steve Rude. Pretty cool. I found this in a used bookstore in Chapel Hill. Trying to show you the signature page right there. Check that bad boy out. Signed by both guys. Has the original. Is it the first 3 issues? Something like that. Anyway, there have been a lot of Nexus issues published over the years. Before I get to that, first, apologies for the gap in uploads over the past few months. Life just intruded. I had to work a lot at my day job, and it was just one of those things where I had to just put my head down and work. So playing around on the internet and doing this kind of thing was just out of the question. So I had to just let it go for a couple months, even though I've had ideas for videos for several months that I've wanted to put up, and I just didn't have the time to it. I was working too much and then coming home to rest. I tried to come back with a bang. I did a great interview with the original comic book outlaw, Hart D. Fisher. He took time out to talk to me one evening. We talked comic books. We talked his book. We talked our love of the art form, and we talked martial arts. And unfortunately, due to a technical error completely on my end, I screwed the whole thing up. Lost pretty much the entire interview, except for the tiny closing segment where we did discuss martial arts. So you can check that out here on the channel. It's over there somewhere, and you'll see that I had to put a stupid animation on it because the quality of my video was completely screwed up. I just recorded it wrong. What can you do? That's why doing these podcasts and all this kind of stuff is a pain in the butt. I would rather just do it by myself, but had the opportunity to talk to him, so I tried to take advantage of it. But you know what? Sometimes we swing for the fences and we still strike out. So I struck out. What can you do? You just have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep on going. Which I suppose is what brings us to good old Steve Rude. I don't know if you've read Nexus, but I followed it for years. Really love the series, but I've always found that it's one of those sci-fi operas that you cannot casually follow. I mean, you really have to almost read it from issue 1 or from something that introduces you to the background and the history of the story. Otherwise, you're just completely lost when you get into it. Mike Barron's writing, although I enjoyed the adventures, there's a lot of weird political stuff in it. That's the only way to describe it. And I'm not even talking about like the weird politics that we have to deal with today here in America. I'm talking about just weirdness in it. Okay. It's a completely different type of weirdness that at times it's just not exciting. And it's just downright like, what is this? But I've always just appreciated the kind of just unfettered imagination of the whole thing. Visually, you know, Steve Rude's style is always fantastic, you know, harkening back to the simplicity and beauty of some of like an Alex Toth, for example. I mean, really, that's the main thing I see when I look at Steve Rude's work. This is a really cool wrap-around cover, by the way. If you've never seen that, the end pieces there. This is the old Capital collection, I do believe. Oh, this is the graffiti designs, man. Nexus has had a storied history. Well, I don't know if you've ever read it, but I definitely recommend, if you can, check out the original series. You know, just start at issue 1 and read it. I think probably the first 50, maybe even 60 issues are really good. Steve Rude does the artwork on probably the first 30 issues. Then he leaves and comes back and does some sporadic issues here and there. But at least for like the first 20 or 30 issues is pretty much all his artwork. And then they had some various fill-ins, which I was never a huge fan of. Like I think Luke McDonald took over for a lot of it. And I don't know, his style just didn't work for the series for me. And honestly, when they got to the point where Horatio Hellpop quit being Nexus and you had another Nexus take over for a while, and then Horatio comes back, that probably should have ended the story, but they managed to squeeze more and more out of it. I picked up the various Dark Horse miniseries and whatnot, and I picked up the first few issues. I think it was 4 issues, but one of the issues was like a double issue, so it's really like 3 books, I think, with the third being like a double issue that Rude published when he brought the character back 20 years ago. And what happened, he said the time just isn't right for Nexus, that the market is just not responding to it, and he wasn't able to make a profit. Now, here we go. Fast forward. I recently backed Rude's Kickstarter for the Battle for Thune World. It's one of the great things about the series is you get into this Thune world and all this stuff, and it's just fascinating. I mean, all of the characters have a life and a voice of their own. They all have unique looks. I mean, it's really fascinating. Like, even just looking at the cover, I mean, you can see the variety of aliens and whatnot, the Thunes right there. Just really classic sci-fi stuff. I don't know what happened between Baron and Rude, but at some point they split and they each decided they were just going to do their own thing. And Steve Rude has been doing his own version of Nexus for a little while. So recent Kickstarter, backed it. Looking forward to getting the issues of it. I think it's a 5-issue miniseries, The Battle for Thune World. I took advantage of the Kickstarter and picked up the Steve Rude sketchbook and I think the art of Steve Rude at like much cheaper price. So I advise you, if Rude does a Kickstarter, you know, jump on it, because you can get, as add-ons, you can get some of those really good books for maybe a third of what you would pay in other places on the internet. So I was able to do that. And now just this week, he sends out a newsletter. So I'm burying the lead, but you know, haven't talked to you in a while, so you know, I have to say hello. Got to kind of warm things up, get things going first before we just dive right in, right? So here we go. This is Steve Rude's newsletter. I'm reading it from the Ringside Rats Facebook page where someone had posted it, because I'm not on his newsletter, and I went back to the Kickstarter and I was like, is this posted at the Kickstarter? But it's not. So here's what it says. For 20 years, Janelle and I have put everything we have, literally every ounce of time, energy, and talent, into the belief that someday all the work we're doing at Rude Dude will pay off. But it hasn't. Decades on, what I've done my whole life, tried to stand for, endured, and maintained hope with, regardless of what hits all of us in our time here, it just isn't working. Man, this is just depressing, just from the get-go. Just such an accomplished, established artist as him, and he's not able to cut a profit. It's now been 20 years on since starting the publishing entity we called Rude Dude, which is what I was talking about earlier, where he started with those 3 or 4 issues of Nexus. It was like around the 100 issues, 99, 100, 101, 102, I think. Now, as a supposed adult, I have to face the reality of something that isn't going to change, a reality that we're just not financially cutting it. Yes, we have supportive fans, always strong, always loyal, but given that our entire way of supporting ourselves has not been nearly enough to sustain us, I'm now looking at a future where things can't continue as is. Janelle, my always devoted and tireless wife, works 10 to 20 hours a day to keep us afloat. I work about 8. I love what I do, always have, and would do it for nothing, which is, in fact, exactly what I've been doing all this time, working for nothing. God, this comics will break your heart, kid. Jack Kirby quote just resounds true and truer every day. As many independent publishers know, profits from their effort don't go to us, they go to costs. As a dedicated group, we end up with very little to no profits. They first and rightfully have to go to the printers, any assistants, mailing supplies, PR materials, whatever else that informs this venture. It's immensely costing, far more than most can imagine. So Janelle and I make nothing, and since it's clear we never will, this letter to you. So, my friends, changes are afoot. It's not a fair world, as most of you know yourselves and never had any claim it would be. It's just life. I've had every success a person could ever hope for, but people can't and shouldn't have to live on something as ethereal and intangible as hope. I blame no one, but the bizarre, inexplicable circumstances of life itself, the conditions we all work and strive under to keep ourselves afloat. What I do is not just my life, but my very identity as a person. Creative people want nothing more than to create, but if creation itself isn't enough, support for yourself and family must override all else. To those who have welcomed the latest edition from Rude Dude, The Battle for Thune World, which would include us here at Comic-Jutsu, we're going to finish off the remaining books of this 5-issue series, the latest Nexus epic of original new material that I've written, drawn, and lettered. Following that, without drastic changes, we simply can't afford to keep publishing more Nexus. Be good, stay safe, Steve Rude. And that was his newsletter update. And that is just very sad. It's very sad. We'll let that sink in for a moment. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the things he says here actually mirror what I say all the time, that if you're doing this, you have to do it for the love. You have to do it for the passion. But I'm not an established pro. I'm just a guy with a day job. People would say this is a hobby, but I don't consider it a hobby. I live as an artist. When you're immersed, in that life, it's not a hobby. It's what you are as an individual. But anyway, it's sad that someone as established and accomplished and successful as him, successful as Steve Rude, is unable to make a living from this. He's just not making profits. Now, I wonder, in some ways, is his business model just not what it should be? Is the task of creating individual issues and then eventually compiling them, is that too much for, just a limited number of individuals working together to create? I mean, that's why we have these big publishing companies. That's why Marvel has a huge studio. That's why they have a big bullpen. That's why DC, why you have all of these people working together, and you have different sections of this industry that all do their own thing. It's not just one person creating everything. So I wonder if his model of trying to continue with that kind of single issue format is making it more taxing than it should be. Would he be more successful to just do it as an OGN? I mean, we've seen Kickstarters and Indiegogos that are extremely successful that at publishing and offering just a complete finished graphic novel, like this. Or, would he be better off just doing them one issue at a time? I don't know. I'm just talking, but I wonder. It's sad. But maybe the time just isn't right for Nexus. Maybe the time, it's run its course, maybe, for the character. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to get into. Are there new readers that get into Nexus, or is it just the same pool of us that have read it for years? I mean, I started reading it pretty much at the end of the first run. Now, it's not the first run like Capital Comics, but like when it was published by First, the company that called First. That was the name, First, the first run. So it was at the end when I got into it, though I'd heard about it for years. I never really saw it on the comic book shelves or anything, and I got a hold of a big stack of them from a secondhand store, and that was how I got into it. And then I went and found, you know, the earlier issues and whatnot, filled it in, and completed the run and was able to read it. You know, but maybe the story, you know, should have wrapped up around issue 80 or whatever. But I mean, he's managed to squeeze a few more miniseries out of it. Maybe he would be better off just licensing the character. I mean, since it is an established character, go back to licensing it. License it to Dark Horse or something. I don't know. Who am I to try to advise? But I'm just talking out loud. So, but it's sad. It's sad that someone who is creating something that is truly original, truly their own, and truly from the heart, is just not able to sustain it any longer. You know, it's depressing. But what do we do? I mean, it's the reality I've always lived in. And, you know, I don't make money from anything I do. Everything I've ever done has been at a loss. Everything, you know. So what can you do? What can you do? But if you live as an artist and you have it in you that you must create, then you must do it. Now, in terms of financial remuneration, look at the market. I mean, the book I'm working on, my graphic novel, I keep talking about, and I say at the end of these videos, buy my graphic novel. I don't know that it has any audience. I really don't. I mean, because I think younger readers nowadays are much more interested in video games. Video games are like the rule of their lives. So there's just a very small percentage of like younger readers that actually get into comic books at all. It seems to be more, you know, like older teens maybe, or college kids, or, you know, middle-aged folks, or old people like me, or even older people. I don't know, but you have to look at the market and say, what does this character work for this market? You know, is there an audience for it? You know, the book I'm working on, I don't think there's a market for it. I think it'll drop like a stone in the pool, you know, just sink to the bottom. No one will read it, no one will review it. But I'll have made it, and, you know, whatever. I'll put it out into the universe. Though I do have some other ideas, since we are in the troll age of comics, mind you. That's how I've identified this current age of comics, okay? The breaking of the fourth wall. Everything has to be commented upon, you know, like we're all in some kind of living, constant Mystery Science Theater 3000, or what was the spinoff of that? You know, where everything has to be commented upon, where nothing is sacred, everything has clay feet, everything is there to be destroyed and to be ridiculed. Now, the thing is, once everything is ridiculed, everything is destroyed, what's left? A pile of rubble, a pile of ashes. So the troll age itself has an ending. It can't be sustained. It only can turn more and more and more on itself. It can't go anywhere. So eventually, real stories and real heroes have to come back. And we are living in a world that needs heroes. We're living in a world that has systematically dismantled every hero that it possibly could have from the past millennium. From Jesus to John Wayne to you name it, they're getting torn down. Luke Skywalker, Spider-Man, all tossed to the side and recreated. Well, not even recreated, but just tossed to the side and to make room for new things. And there doesn't seem to be any reverence for, you know, for these past heroes. So we're winding up with this generation of youth that don't have heroes to look up to. I mean, that was one of the reasons I that really drove me to get into comics. Was as a kid, yeah, I don't want to get all heavy on you or anything, but my dad abandoned my family before I was 3. So I didn't have a father figure for a long, long time. My mom eventually got remarried, and my stepdad became my dad. He's the dad that I know. But for that first, 10 years of my life, there was nothing. And then there were comics, and then there were heroes. There was Spider-Man, there was Superman, there was Batman, and those were heroic figures and almost male father figures that I could look up to, that provided an example for me. So what we see now in today's society, that's becoming more and more anarchic and godless and chaotic, that they're willing to destroy everything, but there's nothing there to replace it. And what does that lead to? It just leads to more chaos. I'm all for chaos, believe me. But man, at the end of the day, we've got to pay our bill. At the end of the day, we got to have a house to live in. At the end of the day, we have to work some kind of job to eat. We can't just roam like barbarians and try to take food from whomever we encounter and rape and pillage and attack everyone. That's chaos. If you want chaos, that's it. We have to have some sort of society here. Anyway, I'm probably getting going too far off the deep end with that, but those are my thoughts on it. And if Steve Rude happens to come across this, I say, hey, license this out. I love Nexus, or even just consider, just consider doing the reprint rights. Start from issue 1 and redo those trade paperbacks or the hardback collections or whatever. It might even be something he's already doing. I don't know. Who am I to advise the guy? He's a real pro. I'm just me. But I write, I draw, I create, I live this life too. So I'm here with you in solidarity, Steve Rude. Anyway, I did back the Kickstarter, have several comics coming from you. So I did my part. So thank you. I look forward to reading the Battle for Thune World and the predecessor for it, the Coming of Gormando. So there you go. So thanks for watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Give me your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know. Am I off track here? I threw a lot of things out at you. Should certain heroes, should they have an endpoint? Should Peter Parker have an endpoint and let somebody like Miles Morales take over, or something like Neil Gaiman did with Sandman? He had an endpoint. He had a new dream in the form of Daniel take over. Nexus maybe should have had an endpoint. I don't know. But these stories can't be sustained forever. We always need new ones and new iterations. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll do my part to make some new ones. Hopefully you guys out there will make some more. Oh, and by the way, I have a story for the Troll Age. I have to finish this one I'm doing right now, which no one's going to want to read. And then hopefully people will like the Troll one because I'm making it for this age, something irreverent as a reflection of the times. But I want to tell the more traditional story first. And the funny thing is, if I have any sort of success from any of it, it'll probably come from the Troll one, the one that I write quickly, easily, like a throwaway book, that's just nuttiness. So who knows? I don't know. But keep on creating out there. Keep doing what you're doing, and let me know in the comments. Am I way off track about this? Is kickstarting like original graphic novels? Is that the way of comics publishing future? If you don't have a Marvel or a DC or Image behind you, is that the way to go? I don't know. Time will tell. Anyway, thanks for watching. JT McRoberts out. Mate.